Hi and welcome to this video. In this video, you're going to see how to buy your Hetzner dedicated server and how to set it up, log in, and in the end, I'm going to install HTTP on that server. The different dedicated servers that you can get from Hetzner are here. Go to hetzner.com and then you can look at the different Hetzner servers there. Going to the next ones, which are EX servers. These are Intel based dedicated servers, and then X, these are AMD processors, AMD based dedicated servers. So let's click on EXE. I'm just going to click on EXE and AX. So when I look at the EXE line, you can see Intel Core i5, Intel Core i9, and then Intel Xeon. So the prices are there. Configure, and you'd be able to purchase this with an extra disk or anything else that you want. Maybe you want a Windows license. We're going to click on it in a moment. Let's come to AX line. These are AMD dedicated servers. You can start at Ryzen 7 8700 GE. You can go all the way to AMD Epic, and the pricing is there. All these have the configurability, which means that you can add additional disks and any other thing that Hetzner offers. So the thing about most of these other servers, the ones that start from EXE, AX, all these others, is that you'd have to wait for them to be provisioned, because most of them, probably somebody has to go in and set up the server for you. So not all the servers are available immediately, but they will always tell you. For example, if I was to click on this server, let's see, configure. So I think it's here under check availability. So if you click here on check availability, this will take you somewhere. This is going to take you somewhere where it's going to tell you how long it will take for the server to be provisioned, roughly how long it takes. So for instance, EX44 is a few minutes, EX44 a few minutes, EX101 a few minutes, EX, this is a few minutes. This is only true. This is not usually true. This is only true if you don't add an additional disk. So some of this, of course, you can get immediately, even if you add an additional disk. So let's come back here and let's say, for instance, let's say I want to order the Intel ones, EX44. If I click there to configure, let's see what we can configure about our server. So once you decide the server you want to order and you choose one that is configurable, you can configure certain aspects. You can configure certain aspects of that server. So for example, by default, you're going to get that processor and you're going to get that RAM, and you can also upgrade the RAM. The drives, you're going to get two 512 GB NVMe SSD disks, and you can choose the location. You can see pricing is also based on the location. There might be a few dollars extra if you buy it in the Germany data center. And then IP address, you can select. You'll get one primary IP by default. And if you don't want it, you can also remove the IP. But of course, you want the IP. You want to be able to access your server somehow. And then operating system, of course, you can select the one that you want. But if you select an additional drive, you won't be able to have the system automatically install an operating system for you. You'll be in rescue mode, and that's the one I'm going to go with. And I'm going to show you how you can install an OS when your server is in rescue mode. If you need a Windows license, you can buy the license from there. RAM, if you want your RAM to be upgraded to 128 GB, you can do so. Just click on that and it's going to upgrade the RAM to 128 GB. If you need extra drives, you can get NVMe SSDs, or you can get the SATA SSDs, and then you can get HDD if you want ultimate storage space. If you need a USB attached, you can also order that there. I'm not going to go with an extra disk, but if you wanted an extra disk, you can do so. When you do that, probably it's going to take a little more time for it to be set up, because maybe somebody has to go and attach the drive for you. So in this case, I'm just going to order this, and you can also see if there's a setup fee. So if there's no setup fee, if you see a setup fee, probably somebody has to go in and do something. I want a dedicated server that doesn't have any setup fees. And of course, the good thing with these dedicated servers from Hetzner is that you pay hourly. So log into your, if you don't have a Hetzner account, you can log into Hetzner robot. If you go all the way up, you can go to login and then click on robot. If you don't have an account, create one. So Hetzner is kind of a hot chick right now, and sometimes it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to create your account and actually get a server. So I wish you all the best. So come here under servers. If you are logged into robot, you can see all your servers here. You can see right now I don't have any server. If you also have a storage box, it will be shown here under storage boxes. I want to order a server, so I'll go here under ordering a server, and then I want one that doesn't have the setup fee. Let's look at these EX lines and see what we have here. Is there a setup fee? Once off setup, 39. I know there's some that usually don't have the setup fee, so I will go with AMD. So the AMD servers, I can see they don't have the setup fee, so I can go with the one that doesn't have a setup fee. In this case, the R5 3600. So I can go with the R5 3600 for this demonstration, and it will be charged hourly. So if I click there on order product, I can select Helsinki and IP address, just the one IP. Operating system, I'll go into rescue mode because I want to show you how you can work with install image. Operating system, we've selected that, but you can also go ahead and see if you can directly install Debian. I believe they will put your 2 disks in RAID 1. Additional drives, if you need additional drives, you can get additional drives there. So that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else I want to add to my server. So add to shopping cart. So the next step is to decide if you want to use a key. If you select a password, your password will be sent to you via email. Let me see if I can add a public key. Save. So the key was added successfully. So let's check out. Accept. If you have any additional information to tell the Hetzner staff, you can add your guide there. You can add your instructions there, and someone will look at it before the server is provisioned. So agreement, yes, I accept the terms, and then order the server. So just wait for the server to be provisioned. It's going to take a few minutes. So if I click there under server, there's nothing, but once it's provisioned, I'm going to get an email telling me that my server is ready. I'll just keep waiting until I get an email from Hetzner. I've just got this email that my server is ready. You can see I only got a public key, so I'll need to log in with my private key. But if you didn't set up the private key, if you didn't add the private key, your password will be sent in this email. So let's go back to the Hetzner robot and I will refresh. And now my server is here. I can click on it. And just one advice, if you're not going to set up the server right away, maybe you buy it at night and you'll start working on it the next morning, the next day, then just enable the Hetzner firewall. You can enable the Hetzner firewall. So here, let's say I select, let me select web server. This is going to come with all the ports I need for a web server, the minimal ports I need for a web server. If you're going to set it up the next day, just go and come here and edit the SSH port, remove it, or you can remove the entire line, but usually you can just maybe add a 0 there. That way no one can SSH into the server while you haven't set it up yet. So that's just a piece of advice that I want to give you. And you know what, I'm just going to save the firewall to enable it. Just wait. So there's my IP, copy. I can just put the IP somewhere here, Control N. So I will need to log in with root, Shift at, Control V. So I'm just putting that there so that if I need it, I can just copy it instead of looking for it. Let me try to log into my server. It is SSH, Control Shift V. So if you're on Windows, if you're following along on Windows, I know some people use Windows, a lot of people use Windows. Download Git and then open Git Bash, and you can follow along without changing any commands. And you won't have to change any command. You won't need to use PuTTY. Just use Git Bash. All right. So if you didn't add an SSH key, you'll just press enter and then enter your password. But since I used an SSH key, let me see if I can locate my SSH key. Default, probably the default key. Okay, yeah, that's probably the one. Enter. There we go. Yes, enter. Okay, so I'm logged in. If you had a key, use your key, your password, I mean. Control L to clear the screen. But you can also read what's given up here. So up here, you're going to see I only have 2 disks, NVMe 0 and NVMe 1. If you have SSDs, probably it's going to be named differently, SDA, SDB. So if you want to install your operating system, you'll have to use Hetzner's install image. So I can just type install image and then enter. And then you can choose the operating system you want to use. In this case, I want to use Debian. Always go with Debian. At least if whatever you want to run can run on Debian, use Debian. And I will go with the latest Debian as of this recording, which is Debian 12, the latest stable Debian. And here, this is where you can define if you want RAID, if you don't want RAID, it's going to be here. So you see, I only chose 2 disks. I didn't add an additional disk, but if you added an additional disk, that usually adds an extra complication. And that's the only reason I decided to use install image to show you how you can go about it. So for instance, let's say all your disks will be here. Drive 1, you can see is there, drive 2. So assume you had a drive 3. Normally, of course, you want the NVMe to be the one that's used for booting. So if you have a 3rd disk, I just recommend that you comment it out. So let's say this was the 3rd disk. This is the 2nd one, but assuming it was the 3rd one, you can comment it out. And when you comment it out, it will not be considered during setting up of the RAID. And once you do that and you set up your operating system and you've already set up everything, the OS is running, you can go into your operating system and maybe change the home directory to that disk. Or if you want to use it for backup, you can just mount it and use it for backup. Just comment out the drive and then later on you can set it up as the home directory. And that's something you can do. You can change your home directory in Linux. So in this case, of course, I'm going to uncomment this. So that is in a situation where you have multiple disks, but you want to use those disks for something different. In this case, I only have 2. If you don't want to set up RAID, you can software RAID, you can turn software RAID to 0. Just turn it to 0 there. And that's going to disable software RAID and your disks are going to be used as they are. If you want to use all the disks as one, for instance, in this case, I have 512 NVMe, 2 disks. So if I wanted to use both of these disks as one disk so that I have at least one terabyte, roughly almost 1 terabyte, here under software RAID level, I'll just use RAID 0, and that's going to use both disks as one huge disk. But this is not recommended because one disk fails, you lose everything. But if you use software RAID level 1, then if one disk fails, the other one will pick up and you won't lose your data. The next item, let's set up the host name. For the host name, you probably want to use a fully qualified domain name. Maybe panel.bizanosa.com. panelz.bizanosa.com. So I'm going to copy that. And if I come here under host name, I can delete the generic host name, which is here. And then I can paste. So to paste, I'll just do shift insert. remove any extra space. Then we can go down. So you can see by default, we are going to get a partition of swap of 32 GB. Maybe that's too much. We already have 64 GB of RAM. I don't need a lot of swap. So 16 GB should do it. And then boot, we are going to have boot. And even for boot, I want to use 4 instead of 3. So these are just options. You can actually just use the defaults the way they are. It's not a problem. So all should be the last item. So I don't know how to copy and paste in this editor. So I'm just going to type manually. So I'm going to add home, at least home and TMP. So let me come and do it here because I don't want to type there. But, and this is going to be the one for root ext4, and we're going to give it 30 GB. And then I can copy that, Control C, Control V. The next one, let me separate. var is where log files are usually located. So if I separate this, log files, you know, maybe you're hosting some big items, you can give it 50 GB. Control C, Control V as well. I want to separate TMP, temporary items. This one I can give 15 GB. Even that seems a lot, but let's just go with that. And then the rest we're going to give home. The rest we're going to give home. Home. Home is going to be all. All. So you should always put all at the end. All the remaining disk space will be apportioned to whichever partition you put at the end with all. So there we go, root var tmp, and I don't see it there, but it might need the boot. I don't know whether it's going to need it, but if I receive the error, I can just add it, partition boot EFI vfat, and maybe we can give it 600 M. So just in case I receive an error, I'm going to add that, but for now, let's just continue and add this. Copy. So when you do this copy, it usually introduces some formatting that might affect this, but let me just continue with it. It doesn't affect our process. I can format this out. That's the only item I'm removing. Enter, shift, insert to paste all the items. So let's just confirm our partition will have swap of 16 GB, boot. We're going to have root with 30 G, and then the var folder, that's where log files usually are, and a bunch of other files. So you can also increase this, because logs usually take a lot of space if you're running something major. And then home is going to take everything else that remains. So there's nothing else that we need to edit here. Nothing else that you need to add. So they say press F10 to close, and then do you want to save the modified files? Yes. There's no problem with our configuration. If there is a problem, it will take you back to the editor and you can make your changes and rectify any errors that you're facing. So it's going to format the first drive, yes. It's going to format the second drive, yes. So let it just install. All right, so it's finally done. Installation complete. You can reboot the server. So usually if you want to reboot on your server, you can just do shutdown restart now, and that's going to shut down, shut down, enter. So that's going to restart the server. Also, if you want to restart it on this end, and sometimes you may need to restart it on this end, especially if you try to restart it and it's just not coming up. Sometimes that happens, especially with Ubuntu. I will go here under reset, and the one that you can do to get it working, you can just do a automatic hardware reset, and this is going to restart it. I'm just going to check if my server is back up, enter, to log in again. Okay, so the connection is not yet ready. Let's ping and see. Okay, so it's online. Control C. Let's see if we can now log in. Okay, so this is expected because the server has changed. The key has changed. Okay, this is actually easy to fix. We're going to do SSH keygen -r, enter. That's it. SSH keygen -r, and then let's log in again. Yes, enter. Good. So everything is set up correctly. Our key has been set up correctly. Now the next step, let's update. Before we even update, let me just confirm that my drives have been set up the way that I commanded the system to do. df-h. You're going to see there our home directory 30 GB. Our root directory 30 GB. TMP, we gave it 15 GB. var, we gave it 70 GB. Home, we still have 332 GB, 322 GB. So that's good. Everything has been set up the way we defined in install image, plus all these other drives that have been set up for the system's purposes. So I'm just going to update the server. Let's just see if we have any updates. Update. All right, so we have multiple updates. Upgrade, upgrade, and I don't want to be asked any questions, so -y, upgrade, -y. All right, so our updates are done. Control C. So assuming you want to host websites on this, you can install HTTP. HTTP also has a mail server, so if you want to use mail, you can use HTTP. So let's just go to HTTP.com. HTTP.com. I will put the link in the description. You can just click and go there. It's a free control panel, very lightweight, easy to use. So when you are installing HTTP, you can change the ports, and I always recommend you change the port to something that accepts something that can be used through Cloudflare. And now this is a really nice new feature that I see Hetzner has added here. You can change the admin username for your account. I'm just going to use admin 30. You can enter the email for the admin, sample.com. sample@sample.com. Password, this will be the password for the user. I don't want Apache. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to install Mautic on this server. If you want to do email marketing automation with Mautic, I can show you how to install it in the next video. PHP FPM, definitely. I don't want to use Apache, so I have left that out. Multi-PHP, you can install multiple PHP versions and name the versions you want there, 7.3. But in this case, I'm just going to use the one version. I don't want to use this server for anything. FTP, you can use that. Bind is for DNS. Postgres, if you want to maybe host Python you can install both Postgres and MariaDB. Exim, definitely if you're going to use mail, and that's one of the advantages of using Hetzner dedicated servers. You can actually send mail. Sieve, I don't think I need that. ClamAV, if you can afford Immunify, I always say Immunify has saved me a couple of times. So if you can afford to use Immunify 360, go with that. I've been able to remove multiple malware for different clients with Immunify 360. So it's one that I believe in. Definitely worth it. Fail to ban. You can see HDCP is very safe by default. It comes with security elements that you don't see in other control panels. I will force the installation. IP tables, that is the firewall, definitely you want that. I'm the only one using the server, so I don't really mind leaving the quota as it is, not installing a quota system. So this pretty much should cover everything I need. Most importantly, I don't want Apache. Yes, so that's that. And then host name, I can use the host name that I set up for my server. I'm just going to add it. So I'll do that in the next video. All these things about DNS I'll do in the next video when I install Motic. So for now, let's just install HDCP, copy. And I want to do this in the TMP directory so that when my server restarts, I don't have any files that were downloaded previously. Next item, where is my Hestia? So everything, so always when you generate that script, installation script, just paste it somewhere because it has some important details for your server. So you can see I'm changing the password, and I'm just going to copy the password, copy, and put it down here. So that's the only thing I will change, the password. And then I will copy it, the installation script, bring it back, Control-Shift-V, enter. So Hestia is going to tell you, these are the items you're going to install: Nginx, PHP, Bind, Exim, Dovecoat, MariaDB, FTP, and Firewall. So you have to explicitly press Y and then enter. Now, one thing I like with Hestia is very easy to install, very fast, installs very fast. So it's going to install, add these packages, MariaDB 11.4, that's the latest LTS version of MariaDB as of the date of this recording. So just let it finish. It says that the process might take 10 to 15 minutes, but usually it takes less. It's not like some other control panels that I've used. It takes a long time to install. CyberPanel, very long, takes very long to install, but they're all free and they're all great. So no shade to any control panel. We appreciate all open source. I do appreciate all open source projects. If I use them, or you never know, you might use them in future. So all open source projects need to be supported. Even with HDCP, if you want to support the project, you can click there on donate and donate something to this project. It's one of the best control panels now, one of the most reliable. So just donate, PayPal, crypto, whatever you can, donate to the project. Let the project succeed. All right, I'll be back once the installation is complete. So my installation took roughly 5 minutes or less. And that's because I only installed one PHP version. If you install multiple PHP versions, definitely your installation time is going to increase. So PHP is the one thing that I know will increase the installation time for your Hestia. I should restart the server, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to open up the panel, paste and go. Okay, DNS is not set up, so I'm just going to use the IP address to log in. Control-V, enter. Okay, so the issue here is I did enable the Hetzner firewall and I have not added some important ports that are used by HDCP. I'll need to add various ports. The first one I want to add is my HDCP port. So add rule. If you don't want to use the Hetzner firewall, you can disable it. Just click there on disabled, and then click OK. But I want to use it because it has various important features. So here I'm going to call this HT for my Hestia, and I want it to be only accessible on IPv4 because that's what I use. And then TCP, definitely TCP, and you can ignore all this. But if you do have a dedicated IP, you can only allow your IP. So just click there on source IP and add your IP there. And destination port is 2083. That, I don't know what this is. I'm just going to leave that as it is, but we want to accept the port. And then I will save and wait. Which other ports are important for HTTP? Okay, the database. No, database is accessible internally, but I'm going to show you where you can get all the ports that are used by HTTP and add them to your Hetzner firewall. And the good thing with using the Hetzner firewall is that you can actually disable everything. As long as you have two-factor authentication on your Hetzner, just disable the firewall for accessing HTTP, disable your SSH. I mean, what better security is there than that? Disabling those ports so that the next time you want to access them, you have to log into your Hetzner account, into the Hetzner firewall, and then allow those ports manually. If you're security conscious, that's something you should definitely do, even though it's not convenient because every time you have to access SSH or you have to access your Hestia or you have to use FTP, you have to add the different ports. So that's something you should think about if you are security conscious, because most of these panels are usually hacked because of the ports. And I'm looking at you, cyber panel, when I say that the last hack was because of the port. Most people who changed their ports didn't get affected. Okay, the firewall is already up, so let's go and access it now. All right, so there it is. So you can click there, advanced, but you can always just do this is unsafe. Just type this is unsafe, one word, and it's going to automatically accept this. And admin, enter. There you go. That's your Hestia now installed on your dedicated server. You can host, and I tell you, you can host as many websites as you want on this server. So the first thing, of course, you need to do when you get HTTP, always add the user, add a new user for that. But I'm going to add this in the next video as I install Modic. So let's go to settings. If you want to look at the firewall, come here, firewall, which port is important, and we haven't opened it. Okay, if you want to use mail, definitely you have to allow the mail port. That right there is for IMAP. If you're going to use SMTP on the server, of course, allow this. You can actually just copy them as they are and add them here, add rule, call this SMTP, and just add IPv4. You can add IPv4 only or all IPs. If you add all IPs, it means that it will work with any IP. TCP and the ports, you can add them there together. And then accept. Which other one do we need to add? 53 is for UDP. If you're going to use your server to handle DNS, and I can show you how to do that, but I won't because I have multiple videos for that. You can look at one of my previous videos. This is for FTP. If you're going to use FTP, enable the FTP ports. I'm not going to use FTP. If web is already enabled, SSH is already enabled. So what else is here that's important? I think that's it, right? The only other thing you might add are these ports. So let's come in here and save. Okay, that should mark the end of this tutorial. And what we've done is magnificent. We've seen how to buy your Hetzner dedicated server, how to install the OS, setting up install image, how to do the partitioning. Finally, we've installed HTTP, which is a free control panel that will enable you to host your WordPress, Laravel, Mautic, any PHP related applications, any PHP or static applications, you can host them now on your server. And our server is running Nginx and PHP FPM. If you come here, you can see all the services. If you just click there on settings, it's going to show you all the services that are running. If you need to restart anything, you can restart it. If you need to edit PHP configuration, you can edit it. But I'm going to do this in the next video because something is going to require me to edit this. All right, that should end this tutorial. I hope it's going to help you set up your Hetzner server and host as many websites as you need to on your dedicated Hetzner server. If you need any help with any of this kind of stuff, you can go to bizanosa.com. We provide Linux server support. So if you need any of this, any related Linux services, just come here and contact me. All right, until next time.